here for another episode of EV Obsession, which one commentator yesterday noted was an apt name for our daily weekday show. We are indeed EV obsessed. I started the website EV
That's true.
Obsession like 10 years ago, and we've the name has stuck around. We've done different things with it, but now we're doing this. And let's get into the news. We have one story which you wanted to talk about more, which we left off at the end of the show, not yesterday, but the day before. Candela just demolishing the 24-hour distance record for electric boat. We did talk about it a little bit, though. But you wanted
We
to talk
talked about it a little bit. Well, Candela has some really neat features. They've got this C8. This is a lifting body performance boat. It's got a hydrofoil wing underneath it that actually retracts, so you can dock it and load it like a normal boat. You don't need like an extra deep marina to use it. And it really is super clever in its design. It's very efficient in the way that it uses power, and you can see that in the fact that it like doubled the range record that previously existed. Right now, there's something really interesting about this hull design. If you look at the steps in the body, so like you see the original, coming off the bow line, you see those steps in the hull. That was originally developed by some of the guys working with Volvo Penta in Sweden. And what that does is it breaks the boundary layer of slow-moving water, slow-moving fluid over that surface. So even as it's getting up to speed and riding on the hull before it lifts out of the body, it's a very, very efficient design that's meant to take advantage of the fact that electric motors are delivering maximum torque from 0 RPM and lifting that boat out of the water. That's always been the limiting factor on hydrofoil design, has been the torque issue with some of these internal combustion engines. But now with the electric power, that's no longer an issue. And obviously this efficiency has been rewarded because they have just utterly thrashed the previous record. I had in my head that there was a 200-mile record that existed before, but I couldn't find any evidence of that. I think the last thing I found was like 70 miles, which is quite a lot on a boat, but
yeah, the article
770 kilometers is huge.
Yeah, it absolutely demolished it. It was 79 miles in 20 hours is what is in the article, and this is 483 miles. So huge, enormous improvements. So is that 6 times?
I believe I speak. Yeah, I was gonna say I believe I speak for everyone else in Texas when I say, what is a kilometer?
But it had a better number, 777. Plus, it was larger. Plus, most of the world. Plus, most of the. I mean, I'm a headline writer, man. We gotta put the better number.
We gotta go big
and go big.
That's right.
But also, most of the world uses kilometers, although half or most of our readership is in the U.S. But whatever. Yeah, well, it's just very exciting. I mean, we've covered this boat for a while. Kyle Field wrote in it for us, and there's a quote of his experience in it in the article as well. I mean, he likened it to the Tesla of electric boats. It was sort of a common thing to do with anything, any new segment, new company.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really nice. They're doing a really good job. So very eager to see it continue to grow and succeed. We'll have one more cool look at the. That's cool.
Oh, that's their passenger ferry. That's a gorgeous boat.
That is very fun. But we have a lot of stories, so let's jump through them. We have less time and more stories. So 6 Massachusetts school districts getting electric school buses. We don't need to talk about it. We just have story after story about school districts getting electric school buses. And at this point, every school should. I'm ashamed to say my daughter's school does not have electric school buses, but it should. And we're working on it a little bit, but not hard enough apparently. We also have the France EV sales report. 26% of new cars sold in France have a plug. We've
wow.
Similar to what we discussed previously with Germany and the Netherlands. The difference being, well, Tesla continues to be at the top of yet another market, which was always dominated by local brands, and now it's Tesla's the leader. but then you've got all the French brand and small, the Fiat 500, not a French brand, but very French happy buyers in France.
Yeah.
So that's always.
Look at the MG though. MG in the number 4 spot. That's huge.
Yeah, the MG4 is doing very well. Very just a really good vehicle for the money, really. And but again, the 500e there, which we talked about, is like not in the US basically, and doing very well in this market. Third for the first 8 months of
Outselling
the
the
year.
Model 3. Wow.
Yeah, through the first 8 months of the year, the Dacia Spring and the Fiat 500e in silver and gold, and then the 200e, another small car. I mean, the French like their small cars, but this is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, as they should. There's no reason to be driving around in a 5,000-pound pickup truck if you're the only guy in there hauling sailboat fuel everywhere you go.
Totally, completely connect with the French on that. But this is the shocker. Like looking at auto brands for EV sales, Tesla is number one in France. Like, I mean, we covered this for over a decade, the EV sales reports, and it was always just French brands dominating. So for Tesla to come above Peugeot, Renault, Dacia, that's a big statement. If you look at Auto Group,
MG though, what a crazy.
yeah,
What is happening in France?
we're gonna have to talk about it more. It's popular in the UK. It's popular in a handful of markets, but then you have, of course, Stellantis. If you look at Auto Group, combine all their brands, and it's dominating. Renault, Nissan in second, Tesla in third. That's sort of how it rules in a lot of these markets. Yeah, anything you want to say on those before we move on to other stories?
I think I'm just shocked at how Stellantis continues to put down good numbers,
Yeah.
despite the fact that they just seem like they have no idea what they're doing.
Well, it's funny because like 3 years ago, Martin Winkhausen went to, I forget if it was Munich or Paris, some auto show, and he was really impressed with Stellantis. He was like, they're going to be good. They're going to be serious. They have good designs. They're serious about it. And at the time, I was like, Martin, I normally really trust you, but are you off your rocker? Like, this is, we're talking about Stellantis. And he called it.
You know,
he called it.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because, like, I don't, Martin is one of these guys that I don't agree with a lot of his takes on things.
Oh, man, I almost always do. But that makes sense.
Yeah, I know. It does make sense, right? We're fairly opposite, at least initially, right? And I saw what he said about Stellantis, and I thought, I mean, I agreed with him that Citroën and PSA and the French brands were really, really serious. They were going to take on Renault. They were going to like establish themselves. But I didn't think that it would transfer over to Chrysler. I didn't think it would transfer over to Fiat. I just thought that the French auto
that's a good point. And I think he was more focused on Peugeot and Citroën. And like I think he was especially focused on Peugeot. And that's someone from Peugeot is who we talked to. And
got it. Okay.
And I just also was like, well, you're talking to someone on the floor of an auto show. Like, how much can you really get from
How much do they know?
But he's always been phenomenal at cutting through the crap, getting the key points, the instinct, the insights. Like, I enormously value his input on anything. But even then, I was like, still like Peugeot. But he nailed it. They came on strong, and they're selling really well. If this is, in light of the UK watering down its EV mandate target from 2030 to 2035, I thought it was interesting that Nissan, which has been like ever since it led with the Leaf, it's been like non-existent in the EV market. Total laggard, says that it's not going to sell any more ICE cars in Europe by 2030, only all electric.
Yeah. Well, and it's not going to introduce any new ICE models. So everything that you have now, if you want an ICE Nissan, you have to buy it now. Or at least it's not going to change from what's available now.
Yeah, but I mean, would you expect this from Nissan?
I would. I mean, honestly, I think that if you look at the history of Nissan, they tend to try something real crazy, and then it goes very badly, and then they adapt, and then they tend to do okay, right? So, like, if you look at the Maxima, the original Maximas were really kind of four-door sports cars. They were very much like BMWs, very sporty. lightweight, nimble cars, manual transmission, Z motors. They were phenomenal. And that didn't sell in America. What Americans wanted was cup holders. What Americans wanted was comfier seats, automatic transmissions. And then they turned and then they turned it into the Maxima into like basically a land yacht. And they sell more now than they ever did. So they know what they're doing.
Yeah, interesting. That's what we rely on you for, that history. And we should give a special thanks to Joe, who is in an airport right now on his way home, and
that's right,
making time to do the show, because that's how committed
from
we are.
Move America.
And by we,
no, that's how
Joe.
obsessed we are. That's how obsessed we are. Because this is not EV commitment.
He's like, well, this is work, but this is fun work, so I'll do it. But I just have to love that. I mean, that Nissan image is pretty wicked. I mean, of course, that's not what they're going to be selling.
So that's so this is a Nissan Micra. This is the next generation Nissan Micra concept. But what's really interesting about this is they showed this car a year ago, just after CES, but not in this form. They showed it in the street going form. There is a Nissan Micra one make racing series, like a Pro-Am series in Europe, where you can buy a Nissan Micra that has this wild body kit, and you go out with other guys, and it's like a hobbyist thing. And, you know, some of the guys are really fast, but for the most part, it's a hobby thing. And they go out and track the car. And what you're looking at here seems to be an electric version of that track special Nissan Micra one make racer. And I think the signal, without necessarily saying so, is that if you are a Nissan Micra driver and you are in that, you know, Micra Cup and Nissan Cup racing world, they are still going to have something for you, right? Because these are customers that are spending $500,000 effectively over the course of a year to drive a Nissan Micra and talk about how great the car is. So you want to keep them happy. Those are going to be your big brand ambassadors. And I think this certainly has the look of a an old Group A or Group B rally car. So hopefully it sticks around and we get something fun and sporty looking like this. That said, the Hello Kitty eyeballs frog face thing is not for me.
Oh, you see, I would like to take off the racing stuff on the bottom and the back, and I would love this car. I like the headlights. Those are super cool. But I am a little girly, so let's just move on. Let's see. Well, speaking of girly, these kind of shows are not appropriate without some fun side tangents. That's my favorite thing about some of the YouTube shows I watch on different topics. I will point out that you had great advice for me way back when you had a young daughter, and you're like, one of the best things about having a young daughter is you can watch stuff like Powerpuff Girls, and it's so good.
Oh, Powerpuff Girls is so good.
And I was like,
I'm watching Sabrina now, like that.
And then I had two young girls.
On Sabrina.
Then I had two daughters, and I'm like, I love some of this stuff I get to watch with them. I'm like, this is awesome. I would never have watched this if I didn't have a daughter, but this is great. Anyway, let's see. I don't know. This is a strange thing. I mean, interesting, but like way out left field. Lucid and Samsung partnered to speed up EV design with the Wall, a huge high-quality digital display. I mean, basically it's like a huge display with like realistic colors and different things. I don't know. I thought you might have some interesting take on this, but I don't know, because you've been at a conference, how much you've looked at it. So maybe we'll come back to it.
Well, so I've seen something similar to this in the early 2000s, the early aughts, right? Late 80s or late 90s, early aughts. When I was at Bowser, we had a Silicon Graphics team, and we were doing virtual car design for, the Cadillac race car, the Saturns and things like that in the Silicon Graphics. And at that point it was an Octane 2, but within the Silicon Graphics machine, we were running Unigraphics, which was, Ross Perot's old company. And we had you could put it on and look and kind of get a sense of the car in virtual 3D space. And it wasn't good. It was as good as you were going to get 20 years ago, but it wasn't good. And this seems to be like the natural evolution of that, we're going to design a car in CAD, and instead of looking on it on a screen and going, man, that looks really good on a screen, they're going to put it life size, life scale, and see if it's something that translates as looking cool in real life. And I think this is especially important for Lucid, because I'm almost positive they designed this car to look really good on a computer screen, and then in full scale, it's kind of potato-y.
Yeah, and it's funny because we talked about that before with Lucid, and And then yesterday I saw there's a white Lucid drive past me, and I've seen it again this morning.
Ivory soap.
And I was like, oh well, that looks a lot better. So to me, the white one looks a lot better than the black one in real life. It doesn't look so flat. It looks more sporty, it looks more fun. But the lady driving it was just zipping along both times I saw her, like, very much enjoying the quality, the drive quality.
1,200 horsepower. Yeah.
But yeah,
She's got as much torque as a
middle-aged
Formula One car.
in the suburbs of Florida. But yeah, I mean, I think, realistic color, realistic lighting, full scale makes a lot of sense. It's cheaper than building a car, and then having to tweak it and do it.
I hear you, and I understand why they're doing this, but I think they're too clever by half here. I think
that's what I was
you
wondering.
need to build the model, build the clay model, put the cloth over it, paint it, do the thing. There's a reason people have been doing that for 100 years, and this is pure Jurassic Park science. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. This is a complete waste of time, and it's just going to lead to uglier cars.
I thought you were high on it.
No thanks.
Totally trashed it. So you confused me, flipped the switch on me there. But
I think it's
I don't know
cool.
enough about it.
I understand why
we have a
they're
picture
doing
of you. We have a picture of you looking not like you that you shared next to the clay model of of the first
the original Rivian prototype. Yeah. So there's a photo of that's RJ that had the shaved hair and the sideburns, and then there's a photo of me that has the shaved hair and the sideburns. And of course it's like an old school photograph, like a 3x5. So you can't, if you're looking at it on a small screen, you can't really tell, except that RJ is a lot taller than me. So you have to just look at the height of the person next to the car. Yeah. So like if it's like,
but it is you, dude, and you were there. You were there.
Oh, I was there
working on the original clay model of the first Rivian, which is nothing like what it is now.
But and I've worked with a lot of people. Like I worked with Andy Harrison from Lotus and Jaguar, and eventually went to Lamborghini. And we were building, even though we were designing the car in CAD, we were still building the full scale models, because stuff that looks cool on a screen doesn't always look cool in real life, and you have to take that step.
But don't you think it's possible with this, if you can really feel like you're getting in the car and seeing it in realistic colors, realistic lighting? Don't you think it's possible that this really would work? We'll find out. Stay tuned.
Okay, so let me answer the question. No. The answer is no. No, I don't. It's just like the full self-driving car. Do I ever think it'll be as good as a person? Not in my lifetime.
It's for like those 4D or 5D shows you can go to now. It's like, oh well, let's see what this is, and they're like, oh, you're just spraying water on me and blowing my hair with some vent in the chair in front of me. Like, this is not exactly like what I was expecting by your advertisement. Like, it's interesting, it's something, but it's not like 4D, 5D, whatever.
Yeah, there's a great show that you see the ads for it all the time, and four-dimensional Van Gogh exhibit where you go into the paintings of Van Gogh and it's all over. And we went to that in Chicago, and it was just like, oh, they're projecting the painting on the floor and you're walking on top of it. This blows.
Yeah. So moving on, but it's an interest. I was like, what is this? This is really out there. This is a fun, quick one, which will lead to one of your big stories, which we'll talk at length about, I think. But this one is just a study in Europe by Transport Environment, or funded by them, that finds that the EU truck industry could lose 11% of its sales, one-tenth of its sales, to foreigners, they say, which is, it turns out, Tesla and BYD. So BYD and Tesla electric semi-trucks could come in and eat up 11% of the traditionally European large truck market.
Yeah.
If the EU doesn't do something.
Well, by 2035, it'll eat up a lot more than that. This is a tough one, right? Because the EU, more than really any other governing body, the EU has decided that it's going to push hydrogen. and it's going to subsidize hydrogen, and it's going to build out a hydrogen network. And within the heavy equipment space, right or wrong, there is a belief that hydrogen is the superior answer for over the road hauling and for long distance heavy equipment. And I struggle to see how either Tesla or BYD will be able to make a compelling argument in that new environment. So I wonder how old this study is.
Well, no, this is brand new. It just came out. But this
well,
is,
it just came out, but when was the data
yeah, but
recorded?
I don't think they're buying into the idea that hydrogen will actually win on the, I mean, I don't know how much they think hydrogen will get of the market, but I don't think, I mean, you can support it all you want as government, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the market leader in a capitalistic society. So, and I mean, the fact is BYD has a series of large electric trucks already. You see a few of them here.
Yep.
Volvo does as well, but Tesla has the semi sort of going. So the study was done by Boston Consulting Group, commissioned by Transport and Environment. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just an interesting take, and you know, any study like this, it's a projection. We'll see what happens, but it's something to think about. Obviously, if the truck market does go battery electric and BYD and Tesla become leaders in that market.
Well, but that's not what the study, I mean, as I understand it, they're not talking about whether or not the market will go electric. They're talking about whether Tesla or BYD will get 10% of the market.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the assumption first is that the
Yeah.
market goes electric, and then if it does, and Tesla and BYD are leaders in that market, then they're going to take some chunk of the market. Like, it's just natural. If they're
I
not
guess
leaders, or if EU like blocks them out somehow, then they won't get 10%. But that's the idea.
I think that's the answer. I think the Tesla Semi is not right for Europe. I would argue that it's not right for America either, but it's definitely not right for Europe. It's just too big. And what you're looking at there is not a Class 8 full-size semi. So, you know, the Iveco, which is essentially the Nikola Tre BEV, the Volvo car, or the Volvo trucks, the BYD, they do have a head start, and they are in a smaller market. You would need to see something a little bit smaller from Tesla to really be competitive in the EU. And honestly, I think that a lot of what this study is projecting is based on the truck being available in Europe. And I question whether or not a Tesla Semi will be available in Europe by 2030. So this is not a question of whether or not
there's a lot of factors.
Will take 11%. Yeah, I don't think this is a question of whether or not electric will be 11% of the truck market. I think it'll be 50 or 60% by 2035. I just don't think it'll be Tesla or BYD in there. I think the governments will protectionist legislation. I don't think Tesla will product.
So their forecast is 55% of the market will be electric or zero emissions. I mean, that's hydrogen is also electric. We should just note, it's just not battery electric. But the market will be 55% zero emissions by 2030. And their argument is that without better CO2 standards for trucks, the EU manufacturers could fall behind.
Yeah. I think it's worth noting, though, that the Toyota Hino hydrogen, even though it's hydrogen, is not electric. It's a hydrogen combustion platform.
Right.
So is the new Cummins.
Yeah. So
they're considered zero tailpipe emission because their only emissions are basically water vapor. But they are combustion vehicles, are, you know, running reciprocating engines through a transmission, through an axle. They're just burning hydrogen instead of gasoline or diesel. So I think the assumption that hydrogen equals hydrogen fuel cell is incorrect.
Yeah, sorry. There are broader options than that.
Which is awesome, by the way.
So this is a big story you pulled up. It's not fresh. It's a week old, but we didn't see it or cover it or something. I think we're
bad at this,
but we didn't include it. But yeah, so I'll leave it to you to introduce it the way you did on the chat, and then talk about it.
Oh yeah, so I love this. So this is so bad. So
good.
You know, whenever you go to a restaurant and you're like, oh, can I have a Coke? And they always go, oh, is Pepsi okay? So like Pepsi's kind of like the fake Coke. So like Pepsi has made a huge deal about their deal with Tesla, and the Tesla Semi is hauling around Pepsi, but it's kind of like a fake truck. Like it's not actually in the hands of the market. It's not actually making over the road hauls. It's not like a real truck. It's like this kind of pseudo fake thing. So here is Volvo's VNR, which is a second generation electric truck with millions and millions of road miles behind it in the hands of hundreds of customers globally. Very much a real truck. And now Coca-Cola Canada has debuted its first Volvo VNR electric truck fleet. So like, it's funny to me that like the real soda has the real truck that's pulling it around, and like the substitute generic level 1 soda has the substitute generic level 1 electric semi hauling it around like 3 towns in Texas.
Well, you said it something like Tesla's
Coke has
Pepsi.
Coke has Volvo, Pepsi has Tesla,
yeah, or yeah, Pepsi, yeah. So
much less combative than the original draft.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting thing. It's interesting that, you know, there is that split. Volvo is a clear leader in the heavy truck market worldwide. Coke is, well, I don't want to get into a Coke Pepsi debate. I hardly drink either of them, but but I mean, the argument is they're the same with different branding.
Yeah. Sure.
I think Coke is better. I prefer Coke.
I also prefer Volvo, so I think we're in a good place here.
But I just find it, I mean, right now the Semi is actually not shipping Pepsi, it's shipping Frito-Lay chips. So it's not the hot.
Yeah, but it's in a Pepsi livery, because they have one that's
yeah, they've got a lot of orders.
And,
yeah. Well, has Pepsi?
It was just here. I literally just saw it. I just saw the
Okay.
Pepsi Tesla Semi yesterday.
Oh wow, that's cool.
I should have taken a picture. Yeah.
Yeah, you should have, Joe. If it was a Volvo, you would have had a picture. This is sack. This is
Yeah, I would have.
Well, that's it for the truck then. We've gone. Oops,
yeah, we're done.
This is a fun one, and I like what you noted in our chat about it as well, because, well, we'll talk about it. But yeah, 100%. Parking lots are a scourge on U.S. society and globally, but especially the U.S. It's like, we'll talk about it in a moment, but we have so many, and it's clear you could just put solar carports across so many parking lots. They could have EV charging poles in them. You're charging on sunlight, you're driving on sunshine, however you want to phrase it. It's making use of space that's not being used. It's shading the cars, so the cars are not suffering from getting overheated like they always do. And you have electricity generation that the company can profit from. So like, it's like
there's so many wins here. Yeah, there's so many wins to be had. You know, if you look at the heat sink effect that an open pavement, especially open blacktop, has on cities, where, you know, they store 10 or 12 degrees of heat compared to surrounding rural or suburban areas. Just heat island shading effect. Some of that, turning some of that heat energy into something useful like electricity is going to be huge. But I think, you know, critically, I always go back to an interview that I read with the creator of the original SimCity video game, right? And he talked about how they wanted.
You talked to the creator of SimCity?
No, I was
learning this.
That I read.
Oh, book you read. Oh, sorry. I was like, what? I missed it.
I mean, I can get him on the phone. I talk to a lot of people. I go to a lot of these conference things. So the guy was talking about how they wanted originally to make parking be realistic and to scale. And he said, we very quickly realized we couldn't do that because something like 2/3 of the urban space, 2/3 of the urban space was parking. And he said, we didn't want to make Sim parking lot. We wanted to make Sim City. And if you're, I'm about to hop on an airplane. If you the next time you land or fly over a city, look at how much space is not only devoted to parking, but look at how much of that is empty as you fly over it. Yep. And I have to keep looking at areas that are doing it right and cities that are doing it right. And I love what Austin is doing in reducing the number of parking spaces required per square foot of retail space. So The
Yeah.
theory being that if you're going to build a building that houses 200 people, you have to have parking for 100 vehicles, right? So now they're
Yeah, this
reducing
is
that.
in
They're
the
cutting
zoning
that in
code. Like
half.
the
It's
zoning
in
code
the code,
require this, and you can't have less parking. And it's often the
right?
parking is often the set to like what you would have on Thanksgiving. So so it's like
Yeah,
the max parking day of the year is your parking requirement. So that's why so much of it is often empty.
that's exactly right. So you have a situation where that becomes wasted space for the bat for 90% of the time, right? And even let's be optimistic, let's call it 70% of the time or 60% of the time it's overbuilt. If we eliminated some of that from the code or we limited it, so not even make it 50%, make it 25% of that, and either convert it back to green space or develop housing on it, or put something else there, we could really encourage more people to ride share, more people to carpool, more people to adopt public transit. We could really create walkable neighborhoods. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day that was trying to convince me that every golf course, every 18-hole golf course should be converted into a 5,000 resident walkable village.
Oh man,
And
I
I was
thought
like,
you were gonna
that's
say
nonsense. And then
pickleball.
he showed me,
Scared me.
no, there's going to be pickleball courts, but they'll be on the roof of the apartments, high above the lowly tennis players as all pickleball. So in Oak Park, they have they have not added pickleball courts to the tennis courts. They have converted the tennis courts to pickleball courts. So now you can't play tennis.
No, I know. Believe
And
me,
I'm
the tennis
so
players
excited.
hate this for many reasons. One is they're taking
Oh,
courts away, taking TV time away, taking make people are like overly excited about like they've become Olympic athletes just because they can hit a big round slow ball
yeah.
over a short net. Anyway,
All,
let's
all
not
I
go down
hear,
that road.
all I hear
But
is that all I hear is that you're not good at pickleball.
I've never touched it, and I am eager not to until my knees don't work at all. But yeah, so longtime readers and listeners should know that probably know that my graduate degree was city and regional planning. So 2005 to 2007, I was in graduate school for city and regional planning at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And we studied a lot of stuff. Obviously, it was a graduate school, but a very popular person and topic at the time was Donald Shoup had written the book The High Cost of Free Parking, and he'd already been writing about this for like 2 or 3 decades or something, and just highlighted the enormous public subsidy provided via free parking to
Yeah.
drivers. So people complain about subsidies for transit and bikes. It's like it's incomparable to the subsidies we've given to cars. It's even incomparable to the subsidies just from free parking.
Yeah.
And in many cases, even if companies want to do better, they can't because of zoning codes. And so, he was pushing this for a long time, almost 20 years ago or 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I think, made some progress, but it's just so slow moving. But it's still like it comes up from time to time here, and someone like just discovered the idea and the topic. Like, I don't know if you just did or you're just good at sounding excited like you just did, but it's always like, yeah, we were talking about that at length 20 years ago, but it takes forever for cities to change, for city
Yeah. But
for,
to that end, I was recently talking. We have for clean tech and core team. I was posting
could you start
pictures of
over?
an electric car
You
that we.
you froze for a second.
Oh, sorry. How about now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. To that end of, I don't know why we're still talking about this 20 years later. I posted in the core team group chat pictures of an electric car that we were building in 1997.
Yeah.
So like
No,
we're still talking about it.
oh, believe
And
me, I
that was
want
a
it to be
hydrogen
talked about.
car.
I love people coming to it and talking about it.
Yeah.
It's
But
just
like,
very frustrating. It's just one of those things that immediately like drags me down because I'm like, we knew this. We knew this for 10 or 20 years before I knew it. I've known it for almost 20 years, and it's just like it's depressing how slow we are to improve things like this. So I was really happy when you highlighted this and you started saying about the parking. I'm like, yeah, man, Joe, always going to go a level deeper. This is great. So we'll talk about
yeah,
that.
for sure.
But in the case of the giant Target and Walmart parking lots that are just going to be giant, Anyway, like just put solar canopies there. Common sense. Oh, another fun one
This is
found.
such big
This is
news.
huge.
Yeah,
Cool.
this is big news.
And what a great picture.
Yeah, I mean, you can read the headline.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
ugly car,
BYD
but
has. I mean, I sort of leave the ones you found to you, but
yeah, I mean, they became the fourth best-selling car brand in August, surpassing Ford in global sales, and that's huge because if you look at the United States, Ford is the big winner in the American market.
yeah,
But
just 2 days ago we
globally,
looked at U.S. auto sales and Ford is #1.
that's right. And globally, Ford is something that has always been like number 3 or number 4, and now they're definitely number 5 because BYD has come past them, and I think that only leaves who's ahead of them? Volkswagen, and I would probably say Volkswagen and General Motors,
Toyota,
Toyota, and Volkswagen.
Volkswagen, and Honda. Oh, wow. So GM is.
So they're
Oh,
calling
well, they're doing
BYD a
brand.
car brand.
Yes.
Yeah, that brand is critical
Yeah.
here because General Motors and but even Volkswagen is surprising, to be honest,
Yeah.
because Volkswagen has a lot of brands underneath it.
Yeah. So, I mean, Volkswagen
Oh, but
Group.
this is just BEVs. This is just BEVs.
Yeah. Well, Toyota and Volkswagen Group are often at the top for auto groups, but I wasn't. Yeah, Volkswagen being #2, just the brand is impressive. But yeah, Toyota, Volkswagen, Honda, BYD, Ford is down in 6th. Oh, so Hyundai also passed it up.
This is a really strange chart. I would ignore this chart because the chart says the headline is top 10 selling BEVs, and then it says top
Oh,
10 car brands, which are
yeah.
not BEVs. It's very
No,
confusing.
I
I'm
think
not
they messed.
100% sure what we're looking at.
No, they messed up. I mean, this is obviously not the truth. This is for. They have the
This is
wrong headline.
cars.
This is
They
cars.
have the wrong headline. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
this is not BEVs for sure. That's cars. But yeah, it's
Yes.
impressive. But it just shows how much. I mean, BYD it had stopped producing non-plug-in cars over a year ago, so they only produce plug-in hybrids and full electrics. They're close to 50-50, but still all plug-in cars. And so for a completely plug-in car company to rise to #4 globally, I mean, it says a lot about BYD, about the Chinese market, about EV revolution. It's also notable Tesla's not in the top 10 there, which I mean, neither of us would expect it to be, but when we talk about global leaders,
EV sales, they're number 1, number 2. Yeah, for sure.
BYD is well ahead of Tesla in plug-in vehicle sales and significantly behind Tesla in full electric sales, but it's those two like at the top of the charts on their own.
Yeah.
Just another fun
Cloud.
Yeah, another fun small Chinese EV. I really like it. I mean, it's looks to be another great value EV from China. That's it. I mean, that's it's just I think we have to keep acknowledging this. We have to keep like just not be too US centric or West centric and acknowledge like if we had what China has with the EVs coming out every day. Wow, what a market, huh? But look at
But
it's a cool
think
looking
about this. Yeah.
car.
Think about this. We always talk about the culture shift and the cultural difference between America and China, and America and Europe, and America and the rest of the world. In America, we have seemingly a belief that we have to have bigger and badder brands and things like that. And the number 1 killer of Honda Accord sales is not Ford Fusions or Toyota Camrys or anything like that. The number 1 competition for a new Honda Accord is a 5-year-old Mercedes or a 6-year-old BMW, because people would rather have that status, that luxury badge, that brand than something approaching affordable, reliable transportation that didn't project some kind of wealth or success, right? We talked about this all the time of, if you have an $80,000 car and a $10,000 net worth, people think you're rich. If you have $1 million in the bank and drive a $10,000 car, people think you're broke. So the thing is a very American thing to assume that you have to spend $45,000, $50,000 on a new car or else you're poor. But like, here's a market. It's a developing market, emerging market, whatever you want to call it. They have $15,000 practical, semi-dependable vehicles. They have $20,000 cars that are going to meet every need of that we can throw at them as Americans, but they're not going to sell them here. They're not going to be popular here. And for the same reason, culturally, I just don't think America's going to accept a $25,000 or $20,000 Tesla either. I think it's just going to die on the lots.
We'll see. I think it will, but and you can't really compare pricing because the Chinese market is different. Even the EVs that are here and there are much cheaper in China, but it's a $13,000 to $19,000. That's the price range for this new Valjean EV, like $13,000 for this, or 19,000 max, like that. It looks a lot like it reminds me of an ID4 mixed with a Scion. Was it a Scion that has that kind of and which I find looks better than either of them on their own. Like it's a good mix. Like it looks futuristic and fun and cool, and I mean, it looks like sort of like a cooler minivan, right? Like,
I like it.
It's cool. All right, and you had this one too, so introduce us.
Yeah, so this is, most people in America understand the Morris or the MG brand through the MGB. The MGB was a roadster that was really popular in the 60s and 70s, and had a little bit of a revival in the late 80s, early 90s in terms of popularity. But like, if you had a car guy uncle, he had an MGB. If you corner Steve Hanley and ask him, I bet he had an MGB or knew like 5 people who had one. This was like the car guy's entry point. This was the car that the Miata was designed to effectively modernize and steal sales from, right? And when the MG brand got bought by China, by the SAIC Group, it has kind of focused on putting the MG brand on sedans and kind of family cars. And enthusiasts have been waiting for a new MG Roadster. And this is it. And it's fully electric, and it looks absolutely fantastic. It does have stupid doors, but it's a gorgeous car. Man, it's nonsense. It's perfect for this. For a 2-door car like this, I think it's perfect. I love the look of this thing. It just absolutely nails what it has to be in order to be a proper MG revival. And this is a car you could bring to the US, and it would never sell hundreds of thousands, but I think it would very quickly establish MG as a desirable brand.
Oh man.
And I could see, I could see 6 or 10,000. Yeah.
Dude, bring it to market, show it everywhere, get as much press as you can. 1 or 2 years later, introduce an affordable MG, and man, that would be a great setting up of the brand.
I'd even go the other way. I'd say introduce this and run it at, like, let's say it's $46,000 or $48,000 is the average transaction price. So bring it in at right around 40 so that it's affordable. People can fall in love with it, and then they'll come into the brand and check it out. They'll see how good it is. They probably won't buy it because we don't buy 2-door, 2-seat Roadsters in America. And then a year or two come out with a high-end SUV, and the people who said, man, I really wanted that Cyberster are going to go, oh, they have an SUV now? Cool. And they'll buy that. And I think this can occupy that space that Acura, Infiniti, Buick, of like, it's not a luxury car, but it's a little bit nicer than like the Toyota, Honda, Ford of the world. Premium. I hate that word so much. Yeah, I think it's a premium. I think it's an entry luxe premium brand. Entry luxe premium. And I love the turn signals, by the way.
Those are awesome. Those are so cool.
I'm going left.
I love those. Whoops, got on the wrong page.
We went the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's so. But I mean, it looks amazing. I think it's hilarious that they call it. It's hilarious that they call it the Cyberster, because for 2 reasons. One, that does not roll off the tongue. It's a horrible name. 2, they're obviously riffing off of Cybertruck,
and Roadster.
Yes, exactly, both of them. But it doesn't have any of the elements of the Cybertruck that make the Cybertruck a Cybertruck. So it's like, it's just ridiculous. But the car itself is awesome. I love the car, but there's the kind of thing that comes out of China. You're just like, why do they think that's a good idea? Like, why?
Yeah, that's like,
is it a good idea for Chinese buyers? I don't know.
It's like when they call a car like the Flying Cloud Luxury King Diamond Edition. It's like, okay. So I think this is funny, and I just want to touch on this because you and I think something that you said made me think of this. You said it doesn't have any of the things that make it cyber. And I think to you, you mean that it's like angular and flat surfaces and polygonal and things like that. And to me, whenever I think of cyber, to me that means virtual, not real, only exists in the digital world.
Yeah, but that's
And I'm
like, but that's like the truck looks like it came out of a video game with its angles and its
right.
steel body. And I mean, obviously there's the reference to Blade Runner, but it's like, you know, this is just looks like a normal good sports car. There's nothing like, it doesn't look like it came out of a video game like the Cybertruck does. It's like,
right. But crucially, it also doesn't look like a weird, goofy Chinese car. It looks like a desirable
oh yeah,
roadster.
no, it looks like it came from a great European brand, or yeah,
Which it did. MG is a European brand.
well, yeah, I mean,
I don't even want to say
here's
this.
a fun one that we left that you found that I think you were not sure if we should actually talk about it, but I was like, are you kidding? This is a great thing to talk about. This is awesome.
Yeah, well, so this is specifically, I believe it is specifically talking about the Lucid Air.
And for anyone who
Looking
can't
like
read this, it says Polestar 3 designer criticizes cars shaped like a potato for the sake of aerodynamics.
That's right. Yeah. And then he thinks too much lighting on the inside makes a car interior look like a mini Las Vegas. That is exactly how I feel about the Mercedes EQE and the EQS. Like Mercedes used to be like the paragon. Like if you were like a classy, wealthy person, you had a Mercedes and it was understated and it was cool and it had that like Teutonic sense of quality. And a Mercedes today with like the three-pointed star lights up, it's got mood lighting inside. Like this is clearly a car designed for like some Saudi sheik's cousin who like has no concept of taste but just wants shit to light up. And I really love that that the Polestar guys are taking aim at that and are making themselves apart from that, and they are kind of saying like, look, if that's what you want, there's plenty of places for you to get it. This ain't it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Polestar 1 and 2. A lot of people are, but I do think the Polestar 3 looks really good. And
the Polestar
really cool.
1, the Polestar 1 is gorgeous. The Polestar 2 is fine, but the Polestar 1 is just.
But the Polestar 3
phenomenal.
could be a hit, but they're not explicit about it. But you think he's taking a shot at Lucid,
Lucid and Mercedes.
And Mercedes. Okay, so Mercedes,
yeah, 100%.
Interior. There's also, I mean, there's a lot of brands that have put out really wild like interiors with screens way too big. Some that haven't made it to market, like Byton.
Go look at a Mercedes EQE AMG or like a Mercedes EQS, and it is. I mean, pull it up on the screen. You've got screen share. It's laughable. How the interiors are.
Yeah, well, I was just in an EQE SUV a couple days ago, but it was very more normal, but it depends on the specific trim and model and stuff. But also, I just think there's a lot of cars. There's a lot of cars that put too many screens, so I don't know if they're really.
Yeah.
But with the potato comment,
that's Lucid.
That could be it could be at Tesla too, like the Model X, but it doesn't.
Yeah,
doesn't.
It could be a Model Y,
but I think
it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit to me.
I think more appropriate they're attacking Lucid.
Yeah, to me, the Teslas have a very the Model 3 and the Model Y, especially. I think they have a very marine quality, like a very underwater. I could see
someone calling the Model Y and the Model X potato-like, but
yeah, I don't know.
But
I'll tell you, this Polestar is not
automakers.
Potato-like. I think he's going after Lucid. I think he's going after Lucid and Mercedes. I think somebody caught him in a bad moment when he didn't have his PR handlers around. And he was like, now is my time. That is a stupid looking car. And this other car looks ridiculous and tacky. And nobody with any class would drive one of these things. And I believe that. I think if you look at a Mercedes-Benz with that light up 3-pointed star that like announces to everyone that a Mercedes is on its way, and you go, oh yeah, that's cool, you're not somebody I want to hang out with.
Another quick note, Oslo replacing almost all diesel buses with electric buses by the end of the year. Just another case of Norway being one timeline ahead of us. Or
True.
one or 3 or 5 generations ahead of us. Yeah, they're just electrifying rapidly. But it's also makes for a great case of when people are like, oh, you can't do this. It's like, Norway's done it. So you always have that to go to. But yeah, that's
That's a wrap.
we made it through. I thought we couldn't make it through all of these stories.
No, we're good. So we'll start again tomorrow from scratch. And
is there a favorite? Do you have a
good.
favorite from all these stories?
Yeah, BYD.
The BYD is
BYD becoming fourth. I think the first major Chinese brand that we're going to have in the US is going to be BYD. And I think it's going to come on a lot stronger than people think. I don't think everyone's going to survive. I think Mitsubishi obviously is on its way out. Infinity's on its way out. I can't imagine that Mazda is going to live forever. It's just they've had a lot of success with their most recent new products, so maybe they will. But I'm not a very strong believer in Mazda right now. I think Jeep will live. Chrysler, I don't know. Dodge, I don't even know if Dodge makes anything right now other than like the police cars. Well, so I think BYD is going to do some real damage.
Well, I was going to say that would make Warren Buffett very happy, but actually I think Buffett has sold
divested.
Then he get rid. Did he keep some of it, or at least most of it, if not all of it? He's sold off.
Yeah, I think they're going to be the big dogs in the U.S. very soon.
Let's see. We'll see. And
we shall see.
Keep an eye out for electric boats from Candela. You should get a ride on a Great Lake up there on one or something. All right.
Well, I'll do the Fort Lauderdale boat show, and they're going to be there.
Have a good flight back.
Later, brother.
Cheers.
Leave.
Hi, my name is Scott Cooney. I started Clean Technica to promote clean energy and other sustainable alternatives, and for 13 years we've been moving markets. If we had a nickel for every time someone told us they bought their first EV, solar, e-bike, or fill in the blank clean energy solution, we'd be a cable TV channel by now. But we don't get those nickels. So unfortunately, we could use your help to reach a few more people. If just 1% of our audience chipped in a few bucks a month, we could hire dozens of great journalists and promote all sorts of climate solutions. It's easy. Just go to cleantechnica.com/support and sign up with a credit card in seconds. Cancel anytime. But we'll be sending out some cool perks too, so I think you'll want to stick around. With your support, we'll keep leading the charge. Thank you so much.